Hey Taurus, welcome to December 2020. I'm pulling from my Modern Witch Tarot and my Prism Tarot. It's been quite the year. Empress, good. Let's see what else comes out for you. Nine of Pentacles in reverse. Interesting. Okay. These will do. We got Five of Cups in reverse, Ace of Cups, Seven of Pentacles in reverse, Ten of Pentacles. Very interesting. There's kind of like some somewhat contradictory energy, maybe, but also overall just very positive. So there's like a little stack here. I don't know. Alright, I'll just take it, and we'll deal with all these cards. Okay. We got Five of Clouds, Defeat. We got Six of Gems, Generosity. This is my Prism Tarot. The Star, Rejuvenation. Nice. Master of Lightning, Leadership. The Chariot, Momentum. And the Two of Wands, Planning. Well, I guess I wanted to start with these two that came out initially, and we'll just kind of see how your reading goes. So, like, contradictory energies, right? Like, the Empress is all about receiving, being, like, fully in alignment with yourself, kind of knowing your own worth, your own deservingness, and being in a position where you aren't, like, maybe hustling so much. I saw this meme recently that was like we're not hustling anymore, we're just getting into alignment, and that's kind of what the Empress feels like to me. Like, you can spin your wheels and spend a lot of energy, but if you're not in alignment with yourself and your true needs and your true, like, self, then you can just be kind of putting energy into something that's, like, not really, I would say Seven of Pentacles in reverse would be kind of that energy of, like, pouring a lot of energy into something that is not bearing fruit. That could also be kind of like, we're in winter, so I'm thinking a lot about, like, a seasonal thing of sometimes the conditions are just not ripe to start new beginnings, right? Like, I have a friend who's kind of, like, looking for a job, and I'm like, well, it's December, like, typically all the businesses, I mean, I'm not saying anything's possible, right? Like, I'm not trying to be discouraging to any Tauruses out there who might, in fact, be looking for a job. I'm more just saying, a lot of businesses right now are kind of wrapping up their year before they start their new quarter or whatever. All of this to say, with Seven of Pentacles in reverse and the Empress and kind of what I'm talking about, is that a lot of the energy to me for you, Taurus, feels like not internalizing any kind of perceived lack of growth with the Seven of Pentacles. And really just continuing to put yourself in an emotional, energetic space to receive when the time comes, when the conditions change, when, so kind of there's like a little element of, I would say, patience involved right now. And the Nine of Pentacles in reverse, I think, is interesting because it's a card to me that really speaks of, like, independence. We also got the Ten of Pentacles, which is great, but I guess I'll get there later. So, the Nine of Pentacles to me is about abundance in a similar way that the Ten of Pentacles is about abundance, but I would say the Ten is more abundance within community. So, my success is someone else's success, someone else's success is my success, we're thriving together, we're growing something bigger than ourselves. And the Nine of Pentacles, obviously this girl is, hanging out on her own in this garden. And so the Nine of Pentacles is a little bit more about what am I doing on my own. And I would kind of, like, what I'm getting I channel these, so take them as they resonate and don't listen if they don't. But what I'm getting is that you kind of are putting it upon yourself to have all the answers and to do it all on your own, this Empress. Like, you're in a good spot, because she's upright, so I think you are in a good spot of, like, feeling worthy and deserving of your abundance, but I think that there might be kind of, like, this stymied results because you're kind of putting it on yourself to do it all. And, when you think about receiving is kind of a different energy. It's yin energy as opposed to yang energy, which is like yang, as in like going out and getting it, masculine energy, right? So it's kind of like you've figured out step one, which is like, okay, I'm going to sit back, relax, and let my abundance come to me. But then step two is like, you're like, okay, why isn't it here? And you might be, I feel like there's just a sense of you either having some self-criticism, some self-doubt, some kind of like self-imposed idea that like not only are you supposed to receive, but you're supposed to be able to receive all on your own. You're supposed to be able to be the person who buys the gift and receives the gift, but that's not how it works, right? We got 10 of Pentacles. And we got generosity. So I feel like kind of what this month is calling on you to do is to be a little bit more involved in community as a means of receiving your abundance. And I think this just kind of means asking for help where you need it. And I know that we're mostly, if we're in any situation similar to mine, we're deep in quarantine, we're not leaving, we're not seeing friends. So like, that could be in part why this is here, because it's like we've been in this period of isolation for so long that it just feels like kind of mandatory almost that we have to be able to control everything, right, to receive. But I think generosity to me almost feels like being generous with yourself, to let yourself off the hook a little bit, to reach out. And help can come in numerous ways. Maybe this is just also not even material. I mean, that's the pentacles, the gems, the pentacles, they obviously deal with more material concerns, like the legacies we're building in the world and community and just kind of food even, right? Like just our ability to take care of the basics of our survival. But I think with generosity, it's like being generous with yourself, to not put it all on you to do all of this heavy lifting, and really understanding that in a way, sometimes you receiving actually helps other people. I think that's kind of an important note. I know I'm dealing with it in my own family. It's like sometimes someone's insistence on being totally self-sufficient and doing it all on their own when they're struggling and they can't actually creates more problems for the whole collective, right? Because there's a flow, there's like kind of where energy wants to go, and like kind of a ecosystem. And so if one part of the ecosystem, meaning perhaps you, are unwilling to kind of take in as much as you are to give out, then it kind of puts it just kind of makes it a little harder for everyone. I mean, I'm getting that with a little bit of defeat, right? I think, well, I'll get there. So before I move on, I think that the top of your reading is really saying to you, Taurus, like, hey, for you to really step up into this Empress, which is upright, you gotta kind of engage more in the Ten of Pentacles mindset of like, my abundance comes from community, and me receiving from others actually helps them too. For example, even like maybe someone is a farmer, I don't know, and they have like tons and tons of carrots. You might think like, oh, I should be able to grow my own carrots and I can't, and I'm so frustrated, blah blah blah. and oh, I could never take carrots from someone else, but this other person might be saying, you know, like, I have too many carrots because I'm a farmer and that's my specialty, and if you don't take them, they're gonna rot. So you letting me be generous with you and be a part of your community actually helps me lift the weight of my excess of carrots, and it wasn't your responsibility to grow them all on your own in the first place. Perhaps I say carrots just because this girl has carrots, but we're here talking here in reverse. So that's really, I think, a big message is you are helping people by being helped sometimes, or reaching out for help, or letting people just know where you're at. And so it's like the receiving mind. So I'll just top it off with this. Receiving is not just about sitting back and waiting for your own results to come in. Receiving is also about this vulnerability of letting yourself be needy, of letting yourself be kind of almost these shadow parts of what we're taught not to be in society, which is to, you know, receive help, receive other people's support, to be involved in community in a way that kind of, because, you know, someone could receive a bunch of carrots and then they might feel like, oh, they were so generous to me, I need to do something in return to like earn those carrots or to show them that I care. I think that's kind of, that's the mindset I think that Taurus, we kind of need to work on, is like, we don't always owe something, we don't always owe people something for them doing something nice. Generosity is just as good for the person doing the giving as it is for the receiving. And it's like, I think what this lesson is in December is like, how can you really heal what keeps you stuck here? And like, kind of, this is almost a lack mentality, but it's not quite a lack mentality. It's more like I need to do it all on my own because I'm a burden if I ask for help, or I should be able to do it all. So I've said a lot on it for 12 minutes. You probably get it by now. I'm repeating myself. So I would really just sit with that. That seems like a pretty potent message. Oh, goodness. We also got defeat and 5 of Cups. I mean, God, this has been a year, right? Like, we all know it. And it's been a year in different ways for different people. Some people have lost loved ones. Maybe you have. Maybe you lost a job. I mean, you know, like, there's been a lot of loss. There's been defeat. There's been, even if nothing completely horrible happened to you this year, there's still just this collective heaviness that is really impacting, I think, everyone. Even if you are one of the lucky ones, you've probably still been impacted emotionally on some level by this year. And all of us had plans that got foiled, at the very least. But I think it's probably a little bit deeper than that. There has been a lot of trauma, and I don't think we should skirt over that. So 5 of Cups in reverse is good to see, because it's like, to me, the 5 of Cups is the grief process. So it's the 5 stages of grief, which is like, you know, depression, anger, bargaining, denial, acceptance, in some like kind of varying order. You know, there is no linear order for grieving. And with 5 of Cups, it's not in reverse, it's not necessarily that you're not grieving, but it might be that you're kind of coming to the tail end of that process, which is acceptance. So I don't read the Prism Tarot in reverse, but it did kind of like come upside down for you too. So I think with this message, part of what I'm getting is just that, like, if you're feeling burnt out, which I know I am, and there's like kind of just like, take the time out to release, right? Like what I said about getting help, like also be there for yourself in a way where you're just like holding space for yourself to kind of purge the last of these emotions, to sit in like kind of the darkness of winter if you're in the northern hemisphere. Just like, it's okay, right? Like, you don't, I don't know what I'm trying to say. We got rejuvenation, right? And that's the star, and that's healing. So I feel like December really ultimately for you, Taurus, just wants you to heal. And it wants you to heal in the ways I was talking about before, but I think it also just wants you to heal in terms of like kind of fully allowing yourself to be like, wow, this year was tough. It was tough for me personally. It was tough for me personally in X, Y, and Z way. I had to uh make certain sacrifices. I haven't had the same privacy that I maybe usually had in my other like life before quarantine. I haven't had um room to roam and have new experiences. I've kind of been in, we've all been in Groundhog Day. And so I think this to me is just saying like it's true. This is true. And it's okay to feel it, and it's okay to let it go, and it's okay to like have hope for 2021. I think this month for all of the signs collectively really wants to kind of put a like a period at the end of 2020, but I don't know that it's like a period per se, but it feels kind of like it wants us to sum it up. It wants us to take what we needed to get from the year so that we can kind of have a fresh start, a clean slate, something to look forward to. And I talked about this with Aries, and it's kind of happening, the message for you too, of like, but for you it's a little different. Like for Aries, my message was like, be sure to wrap up one loose end before you start the new thing. For you, it feels less like kind of an admonishment of like how you should grieve and more just an acknowledgement that you have grieved and are allowed to grieve and are allowed to kind of also recover. There might just be, especially since you're like Earth, a fixed sign, I feel like with Tauruses, kind of there's a tendency perhaps to just get stuck in a way that is like a self-defense mechanism. It's like the rigidness of a fixed earth sign, I would say, is about like trying to hold their ground, kind of trying to maintain some of that familiarity or again comfort zone. Like I think that there's I say all that to say sometimes maybe you have a hard time. I'm not saying this is for all Tauruses, but this is just the message I'm getting. You might have a hard time allowing yourself to give yourself credit for how tough and difficult things have been because a part of you normalizes the trauma and kind of hunkers down and gets stuck in that like rigid spot to hold on to like your ability to keep going. But I think December kind of just wants you to like let the dam loose a little bit, right? Like if you're like just it's okay if you and I mean like I'm not wishing an earthquake on anyone, but like it's okay to kind of shake it up a little bit. It's okay to have or if the earthquake already happened, it's okay to admit that things have been rearranged. Oh, I know a Taurus. We have a cat, and the cat is a little bit wild. And my Taurus friend is like, well, I don't want to have to rearrange my whole life because of the cat. And I'm like, I think we're going to have to rearrange our whole lives because of the cat. Like, I think that has already happened. The cat is already chaotic and she's already scratching and trying to knock things down, you know? So if we care about something, we're going to have to move it. Just because that's the change that's happened. But the Taurus friend is like, no, I don't want anything to change. Like, too much has already changed. I don't want to be involved in creating more change or to admit that everything's changing and then I have to like give up my sense of control. So okay, a lot of talking, but that's what I get with this. You just kind of got to admit that things have changed and that not all of it's changed for the better, at least in the immediate perception, and to just acknowledge and like face the truth, because that's going to bring the healing. To just kind of readjust and shift to meet where you're at right now is the healing, the rejuvenation. Okay. And then we got all these great cards to wrap you up. Ace of Cups, momentum, planning, and leadership. Well, I mean, there's a lot of wand energy here, fire, and I'm doing this reading in Sagittarius season. And I would say, momentum and planning also kind of are a nice pair together. Ace of Cups is new emotion. So, this is typically the King of Wands, but it's Master of Lightning, leadership. I mean, I would say, absolutely, these cards to me feel like kind of the look ahead for 2021. Just like kind of Two of Wands is about planning, but it's also like in a traditional tarot deck, it's like someone kind of like looking out on the balcony and like kind of surveying the land, seeing what's possible. And I think that's kind of definitely a vibe I want to leave you with, right? Is like this month you're reconciling with a lot of like kind of inner, maybe I would say resistance. And as you kind of sift through that, I think you're kind of seeing like openings. You're kind of seeing glimmers of what's possible. This could be news coming in. I don't really know. But like, it seems like you're at least getting insights or flashes or some kind of like indication with momentum of like where things can go. And like I was talking earlier about how like December things are closing down. And it's like, what if you were looking for a job? Then I would say on top of December, you're just reconciling with like all of this kind of stuff about like maybe you need help. So maybe the thing you had to ask for help was for your family to like spot you $1,000 to get through the month. And that's hard for you, but doing it is part of healing and admitting things have changed and admitting that like that whole generosity thing that I was talking about with the Empress. And then maybe towards like end of December, beginning of January, things are going to kind of open up again. And so then like you're planning, you're like, well, okay, now I'm like maybe you want to pay that person back. These are all made up scenarios, right? I'm just kind of giving you an example of this energy is like first in December, you were kind of like dealing with that part of you that couldn't receive, and now you're kind of like stepping up into like, okay, but things are going to change again. Like I'm not always going to be in this position. Or to bring it back to my carrot example, maybe you're like, wow, my neighbor gave me like a whole bunch of carrots and now I want to make carrots. Like I do want to grow carrots. So like maybe I'm going to ask them for help. Like planning to me in momentum is just like you're leaving the month having strong ideas about what it is that you do want to create and like how you want to create it and like how you want to like show up for yourself in the next year, having learned all the lessons you learned from sifting through some uncomfortable emotions. So you're kind of seeing where you want to take yourself and like making plans to do so. Maybe it's not happening right away at the end of this month, beginning of January, but you're definitely getting, I think I would say you're leaving with a clearer sense of what is important to you, what is possible for you, and what it is that you want to start building and being a part of, and how you want to move yourself forward. Leadership. Okay, that's a good enough message for that. And then Ace of Cups. I would just say with Ace of Cups that it's like job well done, right? Like if you've been listening to my reading and it resonates with you and you kind of like do move through all of these like emotional steps of like kind of healing some of these wounds and like kind of acknowledging what's changed and kind of like allowing yourself to shift even though that's hard for you as a Taurus, I would say that like yes, like you're getting those glimmers not only of like how you want to become a leader in your own life and show up for yourself in terms of momentum and planning, but you're also kind of just giving yourself like an emotional fresh start to like maybe allow new love in. That's typically something with Ace of Cups, but also just to feel the love that you're receiving. Like it just feels kind of like there's a little bit of harmony coming in for you, right? Where like maybe there's just like a lifting of some like heaviness and some hope. I would definitely read the Ace of Cups as like a very hopeful energy, especially with like this. Oh wait, I'm holding up the Chariot. I meant to hold up the Star. Here we go. Yeah, like just that there's hope, and that you're feeling the hope, and that you're feeling energized, but not like only energized in terms of like achieving, but like rejuvenated, right? Rejuvenated in terms of like your heart space, and feeling kind of like you can trust yourself, you can trust others, and like just feeling kind of a sense of joy. I would say it's like kind of being able to really appreciate the good in life and seeing it a little bit more clearly, or feeling it a little bit more intimately. Kind of, if you were single, it's like you're gonna maybe you do meet someone. I don't know. I don't like to do that with tarot readings too much because I think that people can get hung up on that in a way that ends up being counterproductive. But it's definitely feeling the love, and that's not bad. I'm not against feeling the love. So I guess it's my reading for you, and I love you, and I'll see you again in January 2021. Bye.